Hey everyone, DFA here, welcome back to the channel, and yes, with update 7.2 the CV spotting range was actually nerfed. Yay! Nah, jokes aside, it's not a bad thing. I do play quite a lot of destroyers and light cruisers, and it's super annoying to be constantly spotted by those planes that keep coming back. So yeah, I did record a couple of scenarios in the previous version of the game, update 7.1, using our most hated CV we all love to hate, the FDR. And yeah, I tested it against the Z52 and the Minotaur, two of my favorite ships, to see if 7.2 actually made a difference. So without further ado, let us jump into a training room, invite our good Frank Zelensky, and see what actually happened or was changed with 7.2. So here we are in a training room, and the Z52 is right in front of me. This is version 7.1, and I'm going to be sending my squadron of fighters right on top of the DD to see how much time it actually takes for the DD to be spotted. So there you go, let's see what happens. Up. They should be flying right on top of the Z52. The planes have to see that it's the previous version, there is no circle around the fighters. I hope the DD gets detected. So it takes a little bit less than 4 seconds between the moment the planes detect the DD and the squadron is actually flying right over it. And now we do the exact same thing with 7.2, you will see the difference immediately. Boom, there you go, the circle of detection appears around the squadron, and does it actually change anything for us? Let's see. Yeah, it's actually pretty significant, and this time a little bit less than 2 seconds to fly over the DD. So the detection range was actually a little bit less than halved, reduced by 40% as they claim. Let's see if it changes anything once the planes are returning. When do we detect it? We do. Up. Yeah, still around 2 seconds, so the detection range for the returning squadron has not been changed with 7.2. Now let's see what dive bombers are going to do. Okay, this time we're sending a squadron of dive bombers, no detection or no spotting indicator on top of them. This is the previous update 7.1. Let's see how much time it takes. Yeah, that's very annoying, right? And so yeah, a bit more than the fighters, because the dive bombers are simply traveling a little bit slower, but yeah, so around 5 seconds, so it's comparable. The spotting distance is actually the same. Now let's see what happens on the return flight. I'm not touching anything, I'm just, yeah, I do touch anything, but I'm trying to put them more or less on the same track. Yeah, and yep, we detect it again. And this time a little bit under 4 seconds, simply because the dive bombers are going a little bit faster on their return flight, but the spotting distance is exactly the same. It's actually pretty similar. So now time for 7.2, a little bit under 5 seconds for the previous update. You see the indicator appearing. It's very annoying, Jesus Christ, I wish I could switch those things off. And yeah, we detect it. And this time a little bit more than 3 seconds, so it went from 5 to 3 seconds. Yeah, again a significant nerf. This 40% they've announced. Let's see if the fact that the squadrons are returning changes anything. So this time, how fast can we actually detect that destroyer? We're flying right on top of it, so it shouldn't take too long. There you go. And yeah, a little bit above 2 seconds, so that's nerfed again once they are returning. And keep in mind they're flying faster, so yeah, it's actually a pretty big reduction in detection once the squadrons are actually returning, from the 4 seconds of 7.1 to the 2 seconds of 7.2. And yeah, spoiler alert, the torpedo bombers, it was exactly the same, so yeah, I'm not going to go too far into that, just remember that they behave exactly in the same way. Now let's take a look at a different scenario. And this time I'm going to send the squadron a little bit above the destroyer, kind of at the limit of what I suppose the detection range is. And yeah, we're just going to compare the two scenarios, see what happens. Yeah, the squadron is a little bit moved up, but we just repeat the same maneuver with 7.2, and yeah, the DD gets spotted as well. Let's see how much time in between. Yeah, when it reaches the top of the round. And it's around 5 seconds again. Now we know that the detection range is not affected once the plane returns, so let's switch to 7.2 right away. And there we are doing the exact same thing with the exact same ship in the exact same position. The dive bombers are moving on. You see there actually the cone is outside of the detection of the DD and it goes completely undetected. And yeah, you'll see something interesting in the... Yeah, you see the DD this time, it's not even spotted. So yeah, that's the main difference between... It's actually pretty significant differences with the fighters, but this is the main difference now. The bombers are more or less blind. They are only seeing what is right in front of them. And obviously, once they return, they do not spot the DD as well, even if I try to bring them a little bit closer to its position. So there you go, that's a major change indeed. This time I'm going to change things a bit. I'm going to replace the destroyer by my favorite light cruiser, the Minotaur, one that relies heavily on concealment. Let's see where it actually takes us. And this time I'm going to send the torpedo bombers in the same position as I used to send the dive bombers previously, yeah, just for the sake of the experiment. And yeah, let's see how much time it takes for them to spot the Minotaur. There you go, detected, and yeah, a little bit over 4 seconds. So yeah, that's okay, not a bad thing. And you see that they've taken damage and one plane was actually shot down by the recently buffed AA of the Minotaur. Once they return, do they spot the Minotaur again? Yes, because the detection range is not changed once the plane are returning and they keep losing a little bit of health and once gets shot down. So let's take a look at 7.2 now. There you go, repeating the exact same thing with the torpedo bomber squadrons of the FDR in the latest update. And yeah, you see that normally, so the cruiser is right outside of the cone, and that is where it gets a little bit ridiculous. The planes do not detect the ship that is actually shooting them down. So yeah, that's complete bullshit if you ask me. I mean, I completely agree with the idea that you're nerfing these things because it's super annoying to keep being perma-spotted by... but yeah, if the planes are getting shot down by a ship, they should actually be able to detect it, right? Absolutely not. We lost half of the squadron there. And the Minotaur was absolutely not spotted. So yeah, let me see if I can bring them a little bit closer with the next one. So yeah, I did test that with the previous version and then they were spotted in both scenarios. Yeah, so this time the cone is right outside of the Minotaur. It's really barely touching it. And yeah, still getting shot down, but nothing is happening. So yeah, it is what it is, but I think Wargaming went a little bit too far with this one. I think that, yeah, I completely agree with the idea of spotting the detection range of dive bombers and torpedo bombers, but I do think that once they get shot down or engaged by something, they should at least be able to see it, right? Apparently not. Now let's talk a little bit about who's going to benefit from that apart from these DDs and cruisers that rely heavily on concealment for their survivability. Yeah, obviously the CVs which have 2 fighter squadrons. There is now a clear benefit from having 2 fighter squadrons. So you see me engaged there with the Manfred Von Ricthofen, and yeah, now you do actually have, because there was no real clear benefit from having 2 fighter squadrons before, because yeah, essentially it was just more annoying than anything else, because you always had to kind of keep them together. But now you actually have 2 times as many squadrons to spot as, say, an Ahimov or a Midway. So yeah, that's actually a clear benefit for there, and you see me there punching the first fighter squadron and using the second one to detect the ships that I'm interested in the enemy team. So that's a clear benefit from, yeah, there you go. And yeah, that's a clear benefit for the Richthofen, the Akuryu, the FDR of course, because why wouldn't you buff FDR more, right? So yeah, it's not a bad thing for these ships, and yeah, you... I think it's actually good because it gives you a clear choice for the fighters. You actually have to decide if you are going to scout and be offensive, or if you are going to defend and be defensive, because your dive bombers and torpedo bombers are now pretty much useless at spotting things. So all in all, not a bad thing indeed. Now let's move on to another class of ships. And here we are with one of my favorite destroyers, the Jaeger, and you see me rushing at the beginning of the game to avoid the squadrons of the Richthofen that were coming my way. That is my absolute nightmare with any destroyer. Typically you can predict where the CVs are going to send their fighter squadrons, but they always send their dive bombers here, left and right, just to get an idea where the enemy team is. And that was recorded in 7.1. Well, you will not have that anymore, because if they want to spot with their dive bombers, you've seen it in the training room footage, they will really have to be pinpoint accurate with their and really fly on top of you, because yeah, otherwise they're simply not going to find you. And with the Jaeger, who does not have any long range AA, if I'm not mistaken, they're not even going to get shot at. So yeah, for ships like that are clearly amazing beneficiaries of that nerf. And again, I repeat, I do think they went way too far with the fact that you are not able to detect a ship that's actually shooting at your planes. That's a bit annoying. But yeah, concretely, I remember when I made that play, I was really shitting my pants, because there's you see, there's a Louisiana. And there's a Manfred, and oh boy, those things would have... If I had been detected right now, my life would have been a complete nightmare. But I'm able to play with my concealment, and I'm able to troll the Manfred there, really being on the limit of detection. So yeah, ships like the Napoli, like the Minotaur, ships that really rely a lot on not being detected and focused by CV. Yeah, they're going to be much more enjoyable now, and the Jaeger as well, simply because, yeah, if concretely, if the enemy CV only has one fighter squadron and is sending it on the other side of the map, you know you're pretty safe. It's never going to find you with its torpedo bomber squad. And you see the CB is actually looking for me down with with its fighter squadron before he realizes that, yeah, I'm actually a little bit closer than what you think. So now with 7.2 they would actually have to send their dive bombers right on top of me to find me, and yeah. Oops! I can actually decide when I want to be spotted and finish that Richthofen with my guns, because yeah, we all know how powerful the guns of the Jaeger are, right? That was sarcastic. So there you go, end of my review of the CV spotting nerfs. Hope you've enjoyed it, learned a couple of interesting things. Stay safe, take care, that was DFA signing out, bye bye.
Engine boost activated.
Yeah, now they know where I am, they're actually coming for me. Yeah, let's leave it at that.
Enemy